There are many things that we remember when we play a game for the first time. Sometimes it is the heartbreaking moments that stick with us. Other times it's the systems that make the game stand out from the rest. There are some systems that are so unique to an experience that it makes you wonder, why hasn't this been done again? Hello, all you beautiful people, past, present, and yes, even those in the future. Welcome back to another video. My name is Claude, and today we're going to be talking about some of the unique features that .hack has to offer, specifically the keyword system. The keyword system was very unique. It allowed players to generate fields and dungeons through the combination of special words. This system appeared in both the original iMock games as well as GU. In this video, we're going to explore the keyword system and how it functions in iMock as well as GU. We'll also talk about why it is never used in any other game since. Before we get into things, if you enjoyed today's video, please go ahead and leave it a like. Subscribe if you want more content. Hype up the video so that way more eyes can get on this video and you'll get more content like this. And leave a comment down below to tell me, hey, what's your favorite word combination in these games? Alright friends, let's get into it. In the original .hack games, the keyword system was built on a three-part structure labeled Part A, Part B, Part C. Each keyword carried multiple potential effects, ranging from terrain and dungeon layout to monster difficulty, item drops, and even weather conditions. Because each part had overlapping influence, the final area generated often depended on priority rules. An example would be using the same keywords for the first and second words, but changing the third word. It would generate something similar, yet slightly different than other areas using the first two words. This system gave iMock a remarkable sense of depth. Players could experiment with these word combinations to generate stronger monsters, get them better loot, or just explore some unique dungeon layouts. However, it was also complicated and opaque. Without guides, word of mouth, or experimentation, it was kind of hard to figure out which word combinations were the best to use and for what situation. Like, there are some area words where you might want to have what's called a spring of mist to be able to upgrade your equipment, or perhaps you want like certain areas that don't have certain enemies. For some players, the system felt mysterious and exciting. For others, it just caused confusion and mostly headaches. While the games did have a lot of possible word combinations, a lot of the areas often do feel the same without much variation. That being said, when you are actually playing the game, you sometimes don't even notice how similar things get in the areas and dungeons themselves, because they don't outstay their welcome. With the ever-changing enemies being spawned in, it distracts you enough into thinking that there is an endless amount of possible locations. The iMock series contained a smaller but substantial pool of keywords compared to later games. Across the 4 entries, there were roughly 308 total words spread across the 4 titles. This meant millions of possible combinations, though not all were meaningful, as many overlapped or produced identical results due to template limitations or specific story area words that were kind of set in place, where all players will end up going through. Despite these redundancies, the sheer number of combinations gave players the impression of near endless variety. Contain rare or even hidden keyword sets could even generate special fields tied to story content or Easter eggs, further encouraging experimentation. There are some word combinations, like for example, that will introduce a speed trial, meaning you have to get to the bottom of a dungeon within a certain time frame, and you get special rewards for that. Or if you go to certain areas, they might give you like extra virus scores or extra items, that sort of thing. So how many possible locations are in these games? There are 100 first words, 103 second words, and 105 third words. So for each server, there are 1,081,500 possible combinations. And within the 5 servers, that number goes up to a staggering 5,407,500 different areas a player can go to by the time they finish quarantine. That means that there's a little chance that someone will go into the same area as you. A 1 in 5.4 million chance you might find yourself a good place to get experience without too much hassle. You might find some like rare items that are easier to get here. The idea that there are still areas that we have not been able to figure out or like just even like come to understand is mind-boggling to me. Like there is still a lot of unknowns about like what particular combinations are the best. We're still finding that out today. If you thought the amount of word combinations was crazy in IMOC, it gets even crazier in GU. By the time of .hack GU, the developers streamlined the system. Unlike IMOC, GU system was easier to understand. Opposition roles such as conflicting element attributes were more straightforward and players can deliberately target outcomes with greater reliability. However, the sense of mystery was reduced, and because GU separated area level from item level, players could tailor areas more efficiently without needing to juggle complex priority flags. The areas were also smaller. Instead of a wide open looping area with a dungeon, it was separated into two different types, a field and a dungeon. A field with several smaller islands with either a boss or a beast statue temple, or a dungeon that is not too different from IMOC's dungeons. The scale of GU's keyword system dwarfed that of IMOC. In Volume 3 Redemption, there are 161 first words, 124 second words, and 172 third words. When multiplied, this creates at least 3,433,808 unique word combinations per server. Factoring in the 3 different servers, Delta, Theta, and Sigma, the theoretical maximum growth goes over 10 million possible area entries, and that is not including like unique effects like being able to spawn a doppelganger. Of course, not every single word combination is going to be entirely unique. There is a lot of overlap in terms of like different island placements, enemy placements, items, what have you. Still, the scale is staggering, and it gave players the impression of an endless supply of new areas to explore, even if it was just an illusion. And think of it this way, there are more possible word combinations right now than people who have played GU. So that means there's even a greater chance that someone will find a unique area just by pressing the random button. With so many possible locations that a player can go to, there will always be a chance that someone may discover an area with more efficient gem farming, or even enemies that most players would not see. I'm even finding some new enemies after all these years and so many playthroughs of GU. This also applies with IMOC, but when you're going through the story, you would see the same areas as everyone else, but with random generation, a player has a chance of discovering something new, a new enemy, a new item, maybe even a good spot to hunt for lucky animals in GU's case. Despite having played these games several times over the years, again, I'm always surprised to see a new something that I am not familiar with. It keeps the game fresh and exciting. It's a feature that I think sadly is overlooked by players who go through the game, which leads me into why I think the keyword system was never used again. Despite its creativity, the keyword system has never made an appearance after GU, or in any other game that I can recall. Why is that? There are likely a few reasons, though I'm not entirely too sure, so take this with a grain of salt. Supporting a system like this requires many map templates and conditional logic, which can strain resources. Looter games often preferred handcrafted areas that tie more directly into the story-driven design. While beloved by fans who enjoy experimenting, the system could overwhelm or confuse casual players. Hand-designed areas provide a cleaner and more curated experience. By the mid to late 2000s, RPGs shifted towards larger, more detailed worlds where procedural field generation felt outdated compared to immersive handcrafted environments. Sort of. Later, .hack titles leaned more heavily towards storytelling, cutscenes, and character development. Hand-designed areas allowed developers to maintain narrative consistency and dramatic pacing in ways that random fields could not. The keyword system is one of the most distinct features in this series. In Unlock, it was experimental, it was layered, and often bewildering, creating an atmosphere of mystery around exploration. In GU, it became more streamlined and more practical, balancing customization with accessibility. Ultimately, the system faded from technical and design shifts, but remains fondly as a symbol of the franchise's willingness to experiment with the narrative and gameplay. For many fans, the keyword system represents the magic of discovery that defined the .hack series. It was a very unique take on a genre like this. But that's all I have for today, friends. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like. Subscribe if you want to see more content. Hype up this video so that way more people can see it. And be sure to leave a comment down below. Tell me your favorite word combinations. Is there an area that no one has ever experienced that you want to share with the world? But no pun intended. Put it in the comments below. I want to hear it. I'm sure a lot of people would love to see the areas that you have found. Alright, friends, I hope you stay classy, stay beautiful, but most importantly, remember those word combinations. Take care, friends.